President and I had a good first meeting. I shared my perspective with him. He shared his. We walked out saying we would continue the discussion. And I think there is an opportunity here to come to an agreement on both sides.
Let's start treating each other with respect. That's what Kevin and I are going to do. Not a joke. We had a good meeting yesterday. I think we got to do it across the board.
President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy both expressing some optimism after their first meeting on the debt ceiling. Let's bring in the roundtable. Former DNC Chair Donna Brazile, Politico senior political columnist Jonathan Martin, our senior White House correspondent Mary Bruce, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. So, Mary, State of the Union Tuesday. I assume this is basically like the opening salvo of the re-election campaign. Biden is running for re-election, right?
It certainly seems that way, yeah. And Tuesday is a good opportunity for a soft launch, right? He hasn't made it official, but yeah, this is a chance for him to really outline the argument for him to have another 4 years. We know what to expect here, right? He's going to argue that the economy is strong, based especially off of the latest jobs numbers. He's going to say he deserves credit for that and make the case that he deserves another 4 years to continue it. The problem is that that message hasn't been resonating. I mean, right, look at the poll. 4 in 10 Americans say that the economy isn't helping out. They feel worse off now than they did when he started. And the poll also shows that Americans just aren't feeling him, right? They aren't feeling the effects of any economic growth in their wallet, but they also aren't enthusiastic about him. And that's a real problem. I mean, these numbers really stand out to me, right? 6 in 10 Americans say they would be disappointed or even angry if he wins again. That is more than the just 56% that have a negative response to Trump winning. So the president has to make a compelling argument. He has to be convincing, and he really does have to set the stage for why he deserves another 4 years.
I mean, Governor, it's hard to say stay the course when the answer to are you better off now is, for so many Americans is no.
Well, you listen to Secretary Buttigieg, you would have thought we were in, the Eisenhower economy, for God's sake. I mean, look, here's the problem. Politicians, when they run for office, you don't always win. Sometimes the other guy loses. Joe Biden's president because Donald Trump lost. Joe Biden didn't win, and Joe Biden's never taken possession of that fact. And so he continues to do what he did when he was running, which he thinks was great because I won. No, you didn't win. Trump lost. And you can't change who somebody is, John. In the end, Joe Biden is not an exciting candidate. He's old, he's boring, and the American people are not relating to him. And that's why those numbers are the way they are. That was the same in 2020, but he was running against someone who was so toxic that he won anyway.
But, Governor, as long as Donald Trump is still looming out there on the horizon, Democrats are going to be loyal to this president, at least Democratic office holders, because they perceive the threat of Trump as making it sort of imperative that Biden is the nominee again to keep Trump out of the White House. But that leads to the elephant in the room, which is what happens later this year if at some point Democrats realize, say this fall, that Trump is not going to be the nominee of the GOP. Is there then a awakening, if you will, about, well, maybe it isn't the best idea to nominate a president who's underwater and 81 years old?
Well, let me just say this. The American people wasn't just voting for a man. They were voting for a vision. They were voting for a president who could take them beyond the current toxicity of Trump into a future where a president invests in the American people, invests in jobs, invests in the economy, invests in our infrastructure. That's what they were voting for. You keep discounting the fact. No, Governor, I give respect to practically everything you say about Donald Trump. But the one thing you will never say about Joe Biden was that he was sleeping on the job. He has been working deliberately to help the American people grow this economy.
How would the American people think?
But look, the Republican Party is in a down mood. They're in a funk. I mean, when you look at the numbers today and where the Republicans are, they're against anything that Joe Biden promote. If Joe Biden say the sun is coming up tomorrow, the Republicans will say, oh, no, it's not.
Donna, in the same way, that's the role of an opposition party. In the same way that the Democrats were against everything that Donald Trump put forward.
Not everything.
Yes, they were. They were against everything.
Not everything.
Everything that he was for, they were against. And the fact is, by the way, and Republicans voted for the infrastructure bill. Yeah. We can all find little pieces.
Biden does have some significant bipartisan legislative achievements. But let me point to something, and I want to get you on this, Donna. In our poll about Democrats, not Democratic leaders, who are all with Biden, it seems, but look at Democratic voters. Right. Democratic voters, only 31% in our poll want Biden to run again. 58% want someone else. Now look at the flip side, Republican voters, and you see it regarding Donald Trump. 44% want him to run again. Much closer. How is it that at this point we're at a situation where Republicans are more enthusiastic about a Trump rerun than they are a Biden re-election?
Because Democrats are always thinking about the future, and we're thinking about the future of the country and the future of our political party. And look, if you go back to last summer, many Democrats said, "Hey, we don't want what we have, but you know what? It's better than the alternative." I recognize that the president will have great challenges, and building back the majority coalition that he assembled in 2020. I do believe that he has the ability to overcome some of these challenges. Will it be easy? No, because you've got to bring in this young group of voters. And you know what? They're not looking at what's going on today. They're thinking about their future, and they're looking for someone else.
John, at some point, there's going to be a Democrat who's very ambitious out there in the ranks of governors or in the Congress who looks at this data that you're talking about and realizes the political leaders may be all deferential to President Biden, but our voters have a different view.
So you think there may be a challenge?
And boy, there's an opportunity. If Trump fades, I think this is the key. So much of Biden's future hangs on Trump because that sort of force field around Biden is sort of emboldened by Trump. If Trump is not the threat this fall that he is seen as today and he's fading, I think Democrats are then going to ask questions about Biden and why they should be nominating Biden. But it totally hangs on Trump.
But to Jonathan's point, so much of it and so much of the Democrats' argument, a lot of the argument that's coming out of the Biden team on this is that Biden is the only one who can beat Donald Trump. And that's part of the argument for why he should run again and be reelected again. But you look at poll after poll after poll, and those numbers are close, very close for Democrats. So to make the argument, which is a lot for them, that Biden's the only one who can beat Trump, and they think that's an argument that extends to people like Ron DeSantis. If you continue to see numbers that show it that close, I wonder, to Jonathan's point, if that changes the calculus.
It's such an argument to say that Biden beat Trump, therefore he's the only one who can beat Trump. There are only two people in the history of mankind who have run against Donald Trump in a general election. One won and one lost.
Right. Well, look, we got to remember what the 2020 election was like. Joe Biden barely had to leave his basement in Wilmington. He didn't have to campaign. I want to ask you, John, you've covered presidential races.
You're going to ask me now.
Yeah, I'm asking you. Do you see Joe Biden on Air Force One doing 7, 8 campaign stops a day at 82 years old and being effective? Can you imagine how many gaffes there are going to be in those speeches? How many mistakes? How many outright falsehoods there'll be? Not because of any other reason than he's just making it up. Look, he's not. John, look, he is not capable of running a traditional American race. And what he had in 20 was a gift. He had Donald Trump, who was toxic, and he had a pandemic which prevented him from having to go out and speak every day.
The other things Democrats will point to is the midterms, and the midterms looked good for Joe Biden. Joe Biden was out there, not in every state, but he was out there, and Democrats way outperformed.
And look, I recognize, because I used to be on those planes, going to 6 and 7 events a day. And
sometimes
by the way,
8 and 9.
Well, hell yeah. But you know, I said hell, sorry about that. But look, the point is that Joe Biden knows how to put together a winning coalition. He did it in 2020, and if he has to do it again, he will. Look, Ronald Reagan announced on October 17th, 1983, all right?
His re-election.
His re-election.
When should Biden announce, do you think?
He should not announce until late summer, early fall.
Wow.
Why? What? Who's running against him?
Yeah.
Right? All he has to do is make the deadlines, get on the ballot.
Does that sound
get on the
feasible?
ballot.
What do you think about when he'll announce? What are you hearing?
All they will say is after the State of the Union, which does not help to clarify anything.
So the fall is after the State of the Union?
But the point is, like, there's no pressure on him to announce now. There's not. I don't know if he gains anything by announcing early. Financially, politically, he could put this off, for months and months and months.
The only one that's thinking about it.
I want to turn to the other guy, Trump, who is right now the only.
It rings a bell.
The only announced candidate for president on the Republican side, I believe. Now, Governor, let me ask you, there's been a lot of question about, potential candidates. Would you support Trump if he was the nominee? I won't drag you through that again, but I want to play Trump's answer to that question. Yeah. He was asked this week, would you support the nominee regardless of who it is? And this is what he said.
My question to you, Mr. President, if you're not the nominee, will you support whoever the GOP nominee is?
It would depend. I would give you the same answer I gave in 2016. It would have to depend on who the nominee was.
I mean, this is, as the RNC is going around saying that as a condition to get into the debates, all candidates will have to say that they promise to support the nominee. Well, I mean,
it tells you one of two things, right? It tells you that if Trump is aware of that and is making a conscious decision, it's that he doesn't want to debate and doesn't want to be on the stage.
Do you think that's the case?
I think it might be, because I think he knows that debates this time will be much, much different than they were in 2016.
Because he has the record to answer for.
Exactly right. But also, look, if you're a candidate and the RNC is saying that to you, that this is demand, say, yeah, when everybody else agrees, when everybody says yes, I'll say yes. But I would say this, you'd be dumb as a Republican candidate for president, in my view, if you say, yeah, I'll support the nominee no matter who it is, but Donald Trump, who is the front runner, says, I won't necessarily do that. Well, the hell, man, when the front runner says he'll support the nominee, then count me in. But until then, forget it.
I mean, you had a very interesting article this week saying that talking about how slow Republicans are to come out to jump in. Nikki Haley, we're probably going to hear from in a couple of weeks. But what's going on that?
Well, John, I am so struck by not just the slowness that the field is developing, but I think by the fact that this is going to be a much smaller field than we've seen in past GOP races. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is just dealing with Trump's a hassle. You just played the clip there. Will he or will he not endorse the nominee? I think for a generation of senators, especially who are in their 40s and 50s, just sit it out and just see what happens down the road. I also think it's in part a DeSantis issue. He appears to be a strong Trump alternative. He's constantly baiting the left, which only helps him on the right. And I think with donors especially, that can suck a lot of oxygen out of the room. And I think lastly, it is just a money question. There's only going to be so much money available for GOP candidates this time around because they're not going to want to burn cash on somebody that they think will prolong the race. They're desperate to find a Trump alternative and fast.
I wore red today to represent your side of the aisle, Chris.
So nice of you.
And you got
our heart is warmed by that time.
And you got your blue tie on, so I love the compliments here. But here's the thing. Donald Trump ran as an insurgent in 2016. And there's a lot of power when you're an insurgent. There's no power when you're not an insurgent. He is the incumbent, and he's going to have to continue to go out there and get endorsements, supporters, and raise the money. The Republicans will have a large field because you have a lot of governors, and you have a lot of other talent that's been sitting on the sideline, and they are going to take on Donald Trump. It's going to be an interesting primary season, Jonathan.
Let me ask you a question. Can Trump beat Biden?
I don't think so.
And what'd you make of Sununu?
Well, listen, I know Chris really well. I mean, I've known him for 15 years. I mean, listen, everybody is playing around with the idea of will I run or won't I run? And I think the reason it's developing slowly, John, is because nobody sees any imperative to do it. Like, first of all, who wants to be the first in the pool with Donald Trump? Right, when he has no one else to shoot at and his whole life is about shooting at people. Why do you want to necessarily be the first in the pool to do that? And secondly, there's no push right now from any other outside forces to say, you must make a decision tomorrow. And so when there isn't, there's no reason to begin. Listen, I've been through this. It is a long, difficult process. To the extent you can make it shorter, that's good.
17 candidates in 2016 filed, I think, for the ballot in South Carolina. I think this time around we'll see 7 to 9 do that. Here's one date to watch. That's this summer. The RNC summer meeting in Milwaukee. They're going to have a debate. So I think that's the one forcing mechanism.
Who's going to be in that debate?
They'll get candidates in the race by the summer to be on that stage.
Yeah, whether or not Donald Trump will be on that stage is actually
and Chris Christie.
Or Chris Christie. All right, we are out of time. Thank you very much to the Roundtable.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.